Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1755 of our daily content grind. So, last month we did a video kind of diving into what really were the worst toys from Transformers G1. Mostly to get people off of Ironhide's back and most of the Pretenders, because frankly, there's way worse toys in that line rather than the low-hanging fruit everyone always jumps to. So, people seem to like that video, or at the very least, saw it a lot. I think they're equivalent on YouTube. YouTube thinks they are anyway. So we're going to do it again, and this time we're going to go up one generation, and we're going to cover Beast Wars. Now, I have featured a few Beast Wars characters on my Plastic Addict series, meaning they are among the worst Transformers I've ever messed with. So we are obviously going to be talking about them again today, and that does start with what is, I think, popularly known as the worst Transformer in Beast Wars, which is going to be Retrax. Now, when it comes to this toy, it is one of those that is made solely for the gimmick in a toy line where gimmicks were part of the toys, but almost secondary. You know, this is the toy line that first focused on giving toys articulation and being action figures as much as they are Transformers. That is at odds with this toy. Retrax is kind of a throwback to your Power Dashers and your Jump Starters, where really the gimmick is everything to the figure. The whole toy is designed to curl up into a ball, but that means there's no upper body articulation. That means he's extraordinarily back heavy, so posing him in robot mode is already difficult. And Beast Wars never really tried for accuracy in beast mode, but they at least made it look realistic. This is not a realistic pill bug. It is the wrong colors. It has got way too many points and nubs to it to actually work as said creature. And obviously a pill bug does not have pincers, but they had to do something. They wanted to do the gimmick, so they had to make the beast mode cool somehow. But that said, is it fair to just completely write this off? Because I could just chalk this up to, well, the gimmick itself is least interesting, and it's cool that the toy can transform, even though it still has this, like ball rolling gimmick to it. Can we look at anything else and just try to be a little bit fair about this? And you know what? We can. I mean, it could just be a prejudice to bugs themselves, because Beast Wars has a lot of unusual choices for bugs that I'm not entirely sure why they went with in order to get beast modes as toys. Like Power Pinch, he's an earwig. I'm not sure of any child who would want a transforming earwig of all things, but here we go, they did make one. And the truth, though, here is that if we're going for worst toys, I can't really include him. The beast mode is strange, but upscale does make for something of a menacing creature, and yeah, transformational ain't bad. Like, he's an okay figure. Basic class, but, you know, he was fine. Like, there's far worse offenders, so I don't think it's just that. I want to go to continue, like, the really weird bad choices for beast modes. How about a boll weevil? Not even sure most kids know what a boll weevil even is. I'm not entirely sure what a boll weevil is. I thought he was a dung beetle for a long time. But no, drill bit is another example of, like, it's just, why did you make that into a beast mode? Why would you think any kid would want a toy of that particular bug? It doesn't even come down to the fact of, like, why did you pick that bug? It is, there are so many better options out there. You know, there's a lot of bugs that could have been way cooler for this list. You don't even have to go to bugs themselves. You know, there a lot of basic class Beast Wars toys were insects of some kind. There's a lot of small reptilians they could have gone with. Like, I don't know. It was always just weird to me they went with this. I assume it's because they just came up with the idea for the drill gimmick and really wanted to stick to it. But yeah, like the beast choices, like the bug choices were always weird. The bug choices were always weird because there's so many better options out there. The most infamous of any of those is going to end up being Transketo. Why on earth would you think any child would want to pay $15 at the time, which in today's money would this size-wise is about the equivalent of today's Voyager class figure, so that'll give you some idea of what we're talking about here. Why on earth did you think a child would want to pay that much money in 1996 dollars for a giant brown mosquito? Mosquitoes are like the one bug nobody likes. I know, like, I have found Ants Canada. I have found a channel that is all about appreciating life at every level, including the little crawly six-legged boys. This is a bug nobody could love. And even if you don't mind a mosquito or two, ugly color scheme. Ugly color scheme. But that said, we did a Plastic Addict for this toy. And even then, I have to admit, there's merit to this figure. It's ambitious. The toy is ambitious because it's a triple changer in Beast Wars, which should not be possible, and yet they tried. And for the most part, it kind of pulls it off. They definitely could have turned out worse than this, and I give them a lot of credit for that. So even like some of the worst in this line does have some kind of merit to it, you know? Like, honestly, if I'm going for bugs, if there's any rival to Retrax, it's Injector. From the sloppy execution of melding the lionfish with the hornet to just the name being lame, this one has very little redeeming value to me. You know, you have just this disjointed beast mode that does not try to blend itself well. You have an incredibly simplistic transformation that is kind of dull and boring. You have a head sculpt that looks like a mutated black Arachnia. I'm not entirely sure why they went with that. Just overall, like, this is a toy that is, again, designed around a gimmick, which is the lionfish, like, launching its spines. Okay. It still has to be a good toy, though. It still has to actually function as a good action figure. Yeah, this one just, it was boring. This one was dull. You know, like every element of it could have been done a lot better. So like I can't even, like, at least like I can give credit to Retrax for the gimmick actually working. This does work, but I'm not sure it was worth the sacrifice. There's a lot wrong with this toy, all for the sake of making a mohawk go forward. Now, when it comes to Fusors, he's not the only one that kind of got under my skin. There's one that in particular I took umbrage with because it hurts me on a personal level, and that's Terrorgator. Terrorgator should have been great. So of all the Fusors, this is the only one that kind of plays off of a real-world thing. An alligator snapping turtle is a thing, it's just not this literal. So I thought that was actually kind of clever, you know, and a turtle is my favorite animal. I'm always down for a new turtle transformer. So grabbing this, imagine my disappointment when I found out that not only is this incredibly scrawny and unimpressive in robot mode, it's all shell former. Everything that makes him a beast is clinging onto his body. I think the only part of his robot mode that actually contributes to his beast mode are the feet. And that's pretty much it. Like, the body is, like, the tail and the rear legs is all just an accessory weapon. The body is mostly just the shell covering up his folded up robot. It's a very lame figure, and a very disappointing figure for someone who was really hoping to get some more turtle transformers in his life. He could have been so much cooler. The beast mode looks so cool. The beast mode looks great, and like it's even two swamp creatures. This is one of the few Fusors that makes sense on multiple levels. And then they drop the ball and just give him this very lame beast mode, or robot mode, and I'm just... My head hurts. It was so disappointing. It was so disappointing. Shell forming in general is so prevalent in Beast Wars, and it goes to extremes. But to get to the really bad extremes, we have to cross the Pacific and talk about Beast Wars 2nd and Neo. Because across these lines, the new molds really got a lot of flack for their shell forming. Dead End here especially, like Dead End is 90% shell. Now, at the very least, the head does form the chest on the robot mode. I give it that. However, most of him is literally just rolling the robot mode up so it will fit inside the two shell halves. This is as literal as a shell former gets. And the weight of these two shells makes posing him actually very difficult, especially if you have launched one of his shells, or, you know, God forbid your launcher isn't broken and the no longer holds that half of the shell anymore, because then you're just completely lopsided and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, like shell forming on a whole new level, on a very literal level. An Ammonite is at least a cool creature. Like, I don't mind the beast mode, honestly. It looks cool. Like, it looks unique. I do like it as a creature. Then you could have done some cool things transforming the shell itself, rather than rolling a ball. Like, rolling your character up. Like, he's like a sushi roll of a transformer, and I don't like it. He's not the worst offender when it comes to shell forming, no. I think that is and will always be Break. Ironically named, Break himself breaks apart his penguin mode into just raw shell all across his body. 2 giant shells across his shoulders, 2 giant ones under his arms, and then whatever's left on his back. Break is one of those toys that you present when you want someone to see just how bad a shell former can be. Because this one is one of those where you can take all of those pieces off. You can dismantle this toy and build an entire seamless penguin from all of the shell and still have a robot to play with. He is essentially a pretender, except his shell is just held together on his robot by screws. And it does work vastly against the robot. You know, like, the arms don't have nearly the posability you would want out of Beast Wars because of those gigantic shells underneath his forearms. Not to mention the weight on those ball joints. Like, the second those ball joints start to give away any friction, you're done. You're done. That cannon ain't holding up for anything. Yeah, incredibly. Like, don't get me wrong. The novelty outweighs it to a point. That's the thing. I think people give Break a break, not only because, like, he's completely unabashed about being a shell former, he's completely unapologetic for it, but also because Penguin's cute, and it's kind of fun to have a Beast Wars Penguin transformer, right? Well, I can't say the same for, I feel, the worst shell former in the line. That would be Mach Kick. This one does not wear its shell with pride. This one just wears it. And wears it very ugly. Gets in the way of a lot of transformation. And gets in the way of a lot of posability. But the transformation itself, incredibly clunky and complicated. This one is notoriously hard to transform. And to the point where, you keep in mind, something to remember about toys like this. Beast Wars was aimed for a much younger demographic in Japan. Like, the cartoons especially were designed to be, you know, kids' cartoons. And they were producing toys that are more complex than most of everything we get on the store shelves today. Mach Kick here rivals the worst of studio series when it comes to just overly complicated transformations. It's an unpleasant toy to mess with. And frankly, I don't think an even that good looking toy. I think the horse is very weirdly sculpted, especially in the head. Hiding the mane as a little extender gimmick, that's a little bit clever, but it doesn't look good as a mane. I think they tried to I think they overthought it there. And then the real pony hair as the tail. Well, not the real hair, but the nylon strips that became the hair. And the robot mode head also has a ponytail. These are guaranteed to be really screwed up and frayed, kind of like my hair at the moment. I got rained on the way into work, so my hair is not happy right now. It's a mess of a toy. This is one of those toys where, like, I never want to mess with it again. And we're not even talking about how horrific that cannon mode is. What is going on? What is going on? God, it looks like the horse exploded and you tried to glue it back together before the farmer noticed. Oh, God, it's ugly. It's not the only sin of Beast Wars 2nd and Beast Wars Neo in Japan, though. They had this bad habit of bringing back old molds, and that's fine to an extent. It can be a novelty. It can be some fun inclusions. But then they also did things like this. This is a Beast Wars toy, technically. This is a auto roller that was designed for Generation 2, but was never released. But the mold made it. The mold survived. So when they went to repaint the auto rollers we did get in G2 as part of the Beast Wars 2nd line, they also threw in the two that we didn't get. Auto launcher, for instance, being okay for G2, but when you release it for, Beast Wars 2nd, and you're in a toy line that's supposed to be known for articulation level and playability, and you give me this guy who is a gimmick toy straight up with very rudimentary articulation and frankly not a great body shape, that's kind of a mess. Auto Jetter I will at least give you because it's a much better looking design than this. So, like, it's a weird one to include in a list of Beast Wars toys that are bad, but yeah, like, for its age and for its era, yeah, this one would be bad to release in the middle of the 90s, when our expectations completely changed with what a Transformer should be. Like, even more, like, this didn't feel charming to throw in, having like a pirate crew of Seacons did. It's not the only weird thing they try to do in those toy lines. At some point, we have to work gold plastic problems into what makes the worst Beast Wars toy, because this arguably means you don't have a toy anymore. Randy here is infamous. There is video on YouTube of people literally crushing him with their bare hands. He is that bad and that fragile because of the gold plastic content in the toy. And yeah, there's no saving it. There's no undoing it. The only way to have a working Randy toy is to buy a Razor Beast, completely paint it gold and white, and pretend that it is Beast Wars 2 Randy. It's literally the only thing you can do. It's not the toy's fault it was molded in gold plastic, but it does make it a very, very bad toy. Functionally, it's fine. Functionally, Razor Beast is a perfectly fine basic class Beast Wars toy. It's when you throw the gold element into it. We had the same thing in the US when it came to Grimlock. Those legs are incredibly fragile. The only way to enjoy this toy is as a mint-in-box collector. I have this toy mint-in-box. I'm never opening it. It is staying the way it is. There is no changing that. But again, it's a good mold, so I can't really hold the gold plastic against it. This, on the other hand, Mutant Soundwave is also 100% gold plastic. It's one of the few Transformers who is genuinely 100% gold plastic. And again, incredibly fragile, which is unfortunate because the design is really cool and unique, but it is also a very awkward design. Those big flipper fins, hands on the crocodile mode, and then the bat with wings that aren't nearly big enough. It's definitely a unique embellishment. You have to imagine a lot of it making more sense than it does. Granted, this was supposed to be an Animorphs toy, so as a Transformer, the standards are a little bit different, but the point still stands. It's released as a Transformer first, and yeah, the gold plastic was such a bad idea, and it does make an awkward design even worse. He is definitely the worst gold plastic offender in the whole line. And we can continue. Like, I've got my pet hatreds in this line. We've talked about Optimus Minor before, a toy that very barely transforms, has a very weird arm split gimmick that doesn't really accomplish anything. And I feel like if I can't immediately tell your beast mode from your robot mode at a glance, I feel like you've failed at something. We've talked about him at length, so I'm not going to go on too much longer here. I will point out a figure that I do think is pretty bad on its own, but again, this one is pretty unfair to call out on its own, and that is Ironhide. Now, the elephant mode's fine. I can't fault the elephant mode, outside of maybe it should be a little bit bigger, but Beast Wars only had so many size classes at the time. But the robot mode doesn't look anything like any other Beast Wars toy. Like, it looks a lot more cobbled together. It looks a lot weirder and shell former. Yeah, there's a lot of shell hanging off of him in every direction. And he's just so limited. You know, like his big body and the shell and everything makes him more limited to play with as an individual toy than most Beast Wars figures. But then again, he has to make up 80% of Magnaboss's body. And he was never sold individually in America. He was only sold in the Magnaboss 3-pack. So I can't ever call him like the worst toy because he's technically not the toy. He's a side effect of Magnaboss. So it's one to keep in mind. It's one that I think is fair to bring up, but also unfair to fully include. With that said, those are what I could come up with when I could think of like what makes Beast Wars toys bad. You know, when it comes down to weird choices for alt modes, lots of shell that is very poorly integrated, and a lot of unfortunate uses of materials, whether that be old molds lying around or gold plastic. But does any of it actually beat Retracts? And honestly, I don't think it does. I don't think the gimmick is impressive on an engineering level. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's good enough to sacrifice everything that a Beast Wars toy was at the time, just to get that gimmick to work. I feel like at a basic class level, this toy would have been absolutely fine, and we've had spring-loaded gimmicks at the basic class level. You can get away with it there. They could have. But to upscale to deluxe and cram in a bunch of other little gimmicks on top of that and completely forget that these toys are supposed to be known for articulating when they, along with transforming, that makes it a lot harder. That makes it a lot harder to justify this figure. For me, there really isn't. Sometimes the low-hanging fruit is correct. I do feel like this is the worst Beast Wars toy, and I don't think anything changes that. It's a typical answer for a reason. We'll put it that way. So, those are the thoughts for the day. Let me know. Let me know in the comments below if we should make a thing of this, because we'd roll right into like the Unicron trilogy after this, and I know all of you like to hear me talk about bad toys, because that's my thing. But I will leave it up to you. Let me know in the comment section below, and as always, I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.